on the
I keep earplugs with me all the time when the music gets too loud. I keep earplugs with me all the time. These are earplugs.
Oh, yeah. Well, next time I go to a burlesque show, I'll remember.
Earplugs with me. I just want you to let you know. You should always keep earplugs.
Thank you, Guy. So, light on the path. And kind of the underlying theme here is exploring this balance between our spiritual stillness, which is a big part of what we're called to in unity, and also purposeful action, taking action in the world. And so I was doing my research and I found a really interesting booklet by Emmett Fox. I don't know if have any of you heard of Emmett Fox? Yeah, Emmett Fox. I didn't know exactly. He was not a unity minister. He was not divine. He was not a religious science. He was a divine science minister, and he was really prevalent during the Depression. He spoke in Carnegie Hall. He had a big following. He's kind of like the precursor to Eric Butterworth in New York City. And he wrote many, many books. Any of you might know The Golden Key, which is one of his little pamphlets. It's all about what you have a problem, go to God. Anything not working in your life, go to God. That's the Golden Key. That was Charlie's very favorite thing in the whole world. At any rate, Emmett Fox wrote a pamphlet on light and salvation. And I thought it would be kind of interesting to see what he had to say. And we'll weave some Charles Fillmore and other things in here, but this was a really interesting pamphlet to me. And he basically was using a Bible passage from Psalms. It was Psalm 27. And the passage is this: "The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid?" I'm going to say it again. "The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is my strength and my life. Of whom shall I be afraid?" So let's just take a moment and just like pausing and in listening to that scripture, ask the question of ourselves, what am I afraid of right now? Just thinking in our lives, what am I afraid of right now? And really being honest with yourself. Is there a decision that you're putting off in your life right now because you can't really quite see how it's going to work out? Are you holding back from something because of fear, a sense of failure, a sense of that you'll be judged because of what you have to say or do, a sense of loss in your life? Is there something in your life right now that feels too overwhelming to begin? It's just too much. Or are you feeling yourself kind of pulled between the extremes, waiting and pushing, praying for something, sitting and meditating, or striving to get it? Just be aware and begin to notice if any of these things are coming up from you, because this is the place in our life between clarity and confusion, isn't it? It's the place in our life between praying and taking action. And also, it's a place between trusting something greater than ourselves, and our own egos need to control things. So I think this passage is just it's a powerful piece for us to be aware of. And really, part of our maturity as spiritual beings, as we're on the path, is when we can begin to understand that tension between listening in the stillness and when the stillness is needed in our life, and when it's time for us to take action, to move out in the world. It's a big piece of what we're called to in our unity teachings, isn't it? It's teaching number 5, to know all these things about prayer and meditation and the thoughts we carry in mind, and to not take action on them, to not live them. Why bother? You don't really know them. So this is really kind of the heart of what I want to focus on today, and really knowing that it's not just about your light alone. It's not just about your effort or your intellect. It's about a light that's much, much deeper. It's the light that comes from within us, isn't it? And it's a light that always reveals the next step. I found a couple of quotes from different people, and one of the first ones I thought would be an honoring is to quote Pope Francis. He said, "God is the light that illuminates the darkness, and a spark of divine light is within each one of us." Unity 101, the spark of the light. Another quote from John O'Donohue, "Light is the mother of life. Where there is no light, there can be no life. Light is the secret presence of the divine. It keeps life awake." I love that idea. The secret presence of the divine that keeps life awake. Always remembering it's within us. It's within us. So, Fillmore talked about light, and not a lot, actually. I was kind of surprised when I was looking, going into my revealing word, where it usually gives us a lot of insights of what Charles Fillmore had to say. But one of the things he said was, Bible writers use the word light to represent our intelligence. And when Jesus said, "I am the light of the world," he undoubtedly meant that he was the expresser of truth. That's what Fillmore believed. When Jesus would say, "I am the light of the world," that meant he was carrying the truth. He was the one who was expressing the truth. So the same is true for each one of us. When we say you are the light of the world, it means that you're the one who's carrying that expression of divine truth, divine life. It means also that light isn't just about what's shiny and bright. It's about what's very clear, right? What's very focused for us. There's literally a quality of divine understanding that is embedded in the light, that is embedded in the higher consciousness, the Christ light that is within each one of us. And it's that understanding, that clarity that we can tap into that literally allows us to move out of the fears that we might have reflected on when I first asked that question at the beginning of the message today. It's that clarity of the light, the clarity of our spiritual understanding that's available to us. And it's interesting because science talks about light too. And we think about light as being so expansive, but we only see such a limited part of light. We only see the colors of the rainbow. And there's so much more because light is an electromagnetic wave. So much of light is what we can't see. Light is warmth. It's the X-ray, the gamma rays, the cosmic energy is the energy of light. So in a sense, just because we don't see light doesn't mean it's not there. And how do we flip that into our spiritual understanding of light as our divine nature, as a divine presence? Just because we can't see it doesn't mean it's not there for us all the time. Such a powerful thing. So it also reminds us, like the electromagnetic wave, that God is always moving. The energy is always moving, that divine energy within us, like the energy of light. And in that same field, the answers are always unfolding. There's a quality of movement to the presence of light within each one of us. And for many of us, it's beyond the visual. It's beyond what we can see in the outer with our eyes, because it's something that's coming from within. So, looking at this quote again that I shared from Emmett Fox, again I'll read it. "The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid?" So Emmett Fox, in using this passage in this little booklet called Light and Salvation, he identifies 4 things that he pulls out of this biblical passage in the Psalms. And it's interesting to kind of see how these 4 things land for each one of us in our own life, and also how they connect with some of the teachings of Jesus, and certainly with unity teachings as well. So I just wanted to explore that a little bit. The first thing he talks about is this inner light as our divine guidance. So to become aware of how the light within us, the divine presence within us, the presence of the Christ light, however you want to talk about it, that inner light is our guidance. And Fox, he emphasizes the power within us that acts as our light, guiding us through life's challenges. He says, the divine power in you will be your light, and you can train yourself to utilize it at any time you need it. So I thought that was an interesting thing, because he's connecting up the light as a divine power in the same way Fillmore talks about the powers that we carry. He even later talks about the divine light as a force. But what he's saying right here is we can use this light that we receive as a guide, and we can train ourselves to listen for right guidance for ourselves. So powerful, this idea of the inner light being a guide for us. Secondly, he talks about the spiritual strength that is in the light, and that this strength comes from within. He says we have the power to do whatever we need to do, and God will show us at any time the meaning of anything we require to understand. And, you know, I think it's really interesting to look at this idea of the divine light within us also carrying strength. Because Fillmore talks about strength. And when you think about strength with Fillmore, he's not talking about like the pushing kind of strength. He's talking about a spiritual strength which can be kind of associated with a sense of persistence, a sense of continuing, you know, doing what needs to be done in the moment, holding a position of strength. It can also be associated with just being in the moment, being in the present moment. There's a spiritual strength in that, isn't there? So how do we experience spiritual strength in our own life? How do we experience that? Jesus talked about this being, you are the light. I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. Part of what I think he's saying right in this point is that when we allow ourselves to rest in the stillness, that the strength of the divine becomes like a flashlight for us to see what our next step is. And you know, there's a story, I was reading this story about this woman. I think she was like a orthopedic surgeon. She was, yes. And she'd taken a trip to Chile and gone kayaking. And her kayak flipped over. And she literally was in the water for like 15 minutes, had a near-death experience, which she later wrote about in her book. And what she did at the time was she became totally still, because at first, when something like that happens, where do we go? We go into frantic, right? We're in like, you know, help me, help me. What she did was she became very still, and she turned it over. She turned it over to the divine. And literally after 15 minutes of being underwater and having this near-death experience, she came back. And what happened for her was she had a new awareness about the power of the presence in the moment. And what she said was that in the future, whenever she would go in to do surgery, because as an orthopedic surgeon, you know, she's operating on people, she would always stop before. She would always ground herself. She would always connect in with the light before she would perform any of her surgeries. And it's, you know, it's a kind of lesson that we don't have to have a near-death experience to know about that, but for some of us, those kinds of experiences do happen. We have physical challenges, and we fight and we fight and we fight until we get to a place of feeling calm in our life. You know, and I was thinking too about when we have to make decisions about certain things. I was talking to a friend of mine this weekend, and she was visiting the Bay Area. She lives in Minnesota, and she had this really bad earache. And she was going to be here for a week. And so she went to her daughter's doctor, and the one doctor is like, oh, you have to put drops in your ears. Didn't help her. So she went to another doctor. She was starting to get, and that doctor's, oh, no, no drops. Don't put drops in your ears. That's the worst thing you do. You have to be on antibiotics. And she went to 3 different doctors, and they all gave her different advice. Finally, and it was out of that frantic place. You know what I mean? How when you have this, something like things change, and I talked to her and she said, I got home and she said, I just sat with myself and I wasn't around my grandkids, I wasn't around my family, I was just home alone, and I sat with myself and I went, you always go to the homeopath, you always go to the chiropractor, you always go to the, what were you thinking? You know, that would always be the first place. You would kind of go inside to see what needs to be done instead of frantically getting opinions from 3 different places. So she has an appointment tomorrow, and I'll be curious kind of what they say. But it reminded me how often we can kind of start grabbing. And I think in the world we're in right now, this is part of what is happening for a lot of us. We're in a place of feeling confusion, there's lack of clarity about what's going on in the outer, and so we take that as an inner experience, and we get in kind of a push me, pull me. What am I supposed to think about this? What am I supposed to say? What's mine to do? And basically what we're being called to claim that inner light as guidance, and also as spiritual strength to just be present, be in the moment to what is right now, not kind of looking it out or trying to forecast what's going to happen in the future. And from that place, the guidance flows, the energy of the divine flows. The third piece that Emmett Fox talks about, reflecting from this passage, is that the divine light, the Lord, he equates the Lord as light, the divine light within us is our salvation. And you know, I was thinking, in Unity, we don't talk a lot about salvation. No, it's not like a word that we use, but in a sense, for me, when I was translating it, I was feeling our salvation is our awareness of our oneness. It's our deepest knowing that we are one with all life and we are one with the presence of the divine. That there's literally a divine harmony, which is the word that Emmett Fox uses. That there's a divine harmony that we are connected to through this presence of light. And that harmony is the same thing that Charles Fillmore would call love. He says love is that power within us which harmonizes us with all life. So this light is also a harmonizing power that allows us to know our connection with all life, and in the sense of receiving guidance, in a sense of being in a place of standing strong. We also have the capacity to have this inner knowing of the light that is available to us. Finally, the thing that Emmett Fox talks about is that the presence of light diffuses any fear that we might have, like a flashlight lighting our way in the darkness, because it allows us to open to spiritual understanding. We can, and we do that again when we go into the stillness rather than being in the craziness of running from here to there. And again, this is a Charles Fillmore piece too. Spiritual understanding is one of our 12 powers. And interestingly enough, part of spiritual understanding is knowing what we're standing on. We're standing on the presence and the power of the divine. But in the Unity teachings, it's very much coupled with the power of will, which is what is going to allow us to take purposeful action. So it's very powerful, I think, when we look at these teachings, and just through the lens of Emmett Fox's little book, I thought it was a new way for me to begin to kind of unpack what it means to really live in the light, to live that inner presence of the light. Of course, Jesus talks about this all the time, and I think one of my favorite passages is this passage from Matthew. You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. Let your light shine so before others that they may see your good works and glorify your Father, the Mother, divine presence that is within you and within all life. And this is really part of what this path of light is all about. It's about our willingness to really rest in the stillness and receive guidance, to be able to be in a place of spiritual strength and a deeper understanding of knowing that we are part of this whole and holy presence, this harmonizing presence, carrying the presence of divine love. And just in closing, I had a teacher when I was studying with the other Fox, Matthew Fox, and the teacher was Clarissa Pinkola Estes. Does anybody know Women Who Run with Wolves? Anybody ever read her? Yeah, she was a pretty interesting woman. And as I was looking up quotes on light, I found this quote from her, and I really kind of want to leave you with this before we have a meditation. She said, "The light of the soul throws sparks. The light of the soul throws sparks. Can send up flares, builds signal fires, causes proper matters to catch fire, to display the lantern of the soul in shadowy times like these." Now, she wrote this a long time ago. "To be fierce and to show mercy towards others, both are acts of immense bravery and greatest necessity. Struggling adults catch light from other souls who are fully lit and willing to show it." I just thought that was such a great quote. The light of the soul throws sparks. So just being aware that you are constantly throwing sparks, and that the light that is you is a light for someone else in the world. It's such a powerful teaching. It's don't hide your light under a bushel teaching. It's what we're called to. But we have to do it from that place of presence where we understand the light within us in the stillness. We understand and listen for divine guidance. We feel the presence of spiritual strength and know our connection to one another and to all life. And that we use our spiritual understanding not only to make right decisions for ourselves, but for the benefit of all beings. This is what we're called into in the world. And this, to me, is what is the path of light. So let's just take a moment now. If I could get David back there, thank you, turning off the lights. Yeah. Just invite you to gently relax in the body. You can turn that one. Yeah. Take a few nice, deep, and conscious breaths, releasing any energy you may be holding. And giving thanks for the presence of light within you, the presence of the divine grace and love, the presence of faith, which is an aspect of light, allowing us to know what is the next step. Maybe we don't know the whole path, but we can see that next step. So where in your life right now is there some sort of disconnection, maybe a decision that you need to make, something that you have been concerned about, anxious about, a place in your life where you might be stuck between that place of just being totally still or taking action and striving in the world. Maybe there's some fear or a lack of clarity in one area of your life. Just take a moment and breathe into that. And trust that even when you can't see the light, The light is there. The light is on the path. Sometimes the light says, be still. Take a deep breath. Allow the guidance of the inner light within to bring more clarity, more spiritual understanding to the situation in your life. From a place of spiritual strength, listen and feel. Sometimes the light says, go now, do this, take purposeful action. Either way, the Lord is your light. The Lord is your salvation, your harmony, your presence, your strength, your love, your faith, your understanding, your will. What is there to fear? There is nothing to fear. The light of God surrounds you. The love of God enfolds you. The power of God protects you. And the presence of God watches over you wherever you are. The light of God is, and all is well. Offering gratitude to the presence and the power of divine light, the light you see and the light you don't see. We give thanks, and so it is. So gently, as you're ready, gently bring your awareness back into your physical body. And as you feel ready, you can gently open your eyes.